It all kicked off when Trippie Red allegedly threatened 6ix9ine's family.
Oh no, we definitely got footage at the mom's crib. She live in building 18 out here.
But some believe he went a step further by targeting 6ix9ine's girlfriend. Word around New York is that 6ix9ine finally got his payback after catching Trippie off guard. There's a lot to unpack here. Let me break it down. Why Trippie might have wanted Ariella gone. To grasp why anyone would strike at 6ix9ine by hitting someone close to him, we need to rewind to where the tension began. Back in the mid-2010s, the SoundCloud rap wave was taking off, and both 6ix9ine and Trippie were rising fast. These two were cut from the same cloth. Wild hair colors, tattooed faces, and that melodic trap sound dominating the web. They were both signed to 10K projects, recording together, and seemed like real friends helping each other blow up. Their joint track polls 1469 in 2017 wasn't just business. It showed real chemistry between Trippie's melodic tone and 6ix9ine's raw aggression, and fans couldn't get enough. Back then they were tight, sharing studio time, promoting each other, acting like day one's ready to make it out together. But this is where things turn personal. And it's key to understanding why their feud got so dark it may have ended in murder. Everything fell apart because of women, mainly because 6ix9ine couldn't stay away from Trippie's girl. But the proof of 6ix9ine's pattern of going after his rivals through their women is right there on camera. There's that clip of him with Trippie's ex, Alex, clearly flaunting it to get under Trippie's skin. This wasn't about attraction. It was psychological warfare meant to humiliate and crush Trippie in front of the hip-hop world. In that same video, you can even hear them mocking Trippie together.
This is that crazy. This is that same 6ix9ine. Yo, babe, look at this.
It is 6ix9ine. It's Treyway.
You right, babe.
Now picture being Trippie Red, watching your former friend publicly disrespect you, messing with your ex, and posting it all for the world to see. That kind of betrayal cuts deep. It's more than rap beef. It's personal humiliation that haunts you daily. In hip-hop, where pride and respect define your name, 6ix9ine was basically trying to strip Trippie of his manhood in front of millions. The problem with beef that personal is, it never fades away. When someone disrespects you by targeting your woman, that's the kind of wound that demands revenge. Even Trippie's own circle would mention the 6ix9ine situation just to push his buttons and remind him of that embarrassment.
I bet if 6ix9ine would've gave me a win, I would've win.
And in the street world these two were part of, revenge never expires. What fuels the talk that Trippie was involved in Ariella's death is how the feud kept escalating through the years. Their gang ties made things even more dangerous. Trippie was aligned with the Crips, while 6ix9ine rolled with the 9 Trey Bloods. These weren't surface-level affiliations for clout. They came with loyalty and expectations of retaliation when disrespected. The pattern of attacking each other through their women became a twisted routine between them. Both rappers seemed to understand that hitting someone through their girl was the deepest way to break them mentally. It wasn't about love or jealousy. It was about dominance, control, and inflicting the harshest emotional pain possible. Their feud played out online too, with viral social media clashes that drew millions of views and kept their rivalry in constant spotlight.
Somebody said your part of the song was...
But that's your biggest song. That's your biggest song. That's your biggest song. That's your biggest song.
It's not my biggest song.
Yeah, it is.
My biggest songs are Love Scars, Love, Dark Knight.
But while the public drama helped both their careers in some ways, it also meant their private hatred was playing out for the entire world to see. Everyone knew these two genuinely loathed each other. By 2025, enough years had passed for a plan like this to come together, but not nearly enough for that bitterness to fade. Trippie had built his image and career, but the humiliation 6ix9ine caused early on still haunted him. Sometimes revenge grows stronger with time, not weaker. There's also the fact that Ariella had already been caught in the crossfire once before because of her ties to 6ix9ine. Back in 2018, he was kidnapped by 9 Trey members who believed she was one of his girls. That proved people knew she was linked to him and would use her to get at him. The fact she survived that first time didn't make her safer. It made her more of a liability, because she knew too much. When Ariella was found shot multiple times inside her car on August 17, 2025, police confirmed it was an intentional hit, not random violence. The clean, professional nature of the attack suggested it was carried out by someone with serious connections and resources. Exactly the type of move someone like Trippie, with his street affiliations, could have pulled off. The motive lines up perfectly when you really think about it. Trippie couldn't realistically strike at 6ix9ine himself. The guy was likely under federal watch, surrounded by security, and staying hidden. But hitting someone close to him would cause just as much pain while being far easier and safer. The tactic of targeting loved ones to hurt enemies isn't new. It's an old-school street message, one that lands hard without direct confrontation. For Trippie, taking Ariella out would serve several purposes. It would wound 6ix9ine emotionally, prove he could still reach him despite protection, and deliver long-awaited payback for years of humiliation. Ariella's long connection to 6ix9ine, from music videos to online presence, made her an ideal target. She was visible enough that her death would instantly reach 6ix9ine, yet not important enough to have serious protection. When you put it all together, the hatred between them, the pattern of going after each other's women, Trippie's gang network capable of organizing a hit, and Ariella's previous targeting that proves she was already being watched, it builds a convincing picture that Trippie may have finally gotten his revenge. The streets never forget, especially not the kind of humiliation 6ix9ine forced him to live with. In a world where respect defines survival, being disrespected publicly is the ultimate crime, and payback was always destined to come. The only mystery was when it would happen and who would be caught in the crossfire. Sadly for Ariella, she became the answer to that second question. Her death could have been Trippie's way of closing a painful chapter, proof that some rivalries in hip-hop run far deeper than music and can claim innocent lives connected to the wrong person at the wrong moment. But even though Trippie's anger gave him motive to see Ariella gone, he wasn't the only threat 6ix9ine had created. Because when betrayal comes from inside your own circle, it cuts deeper. The story of why Ariella Mejia Paleno lost her life goes far beyond the feud between 6ix9ine and Trippie Redd. While Trippie had his personal reasons for wanting 6ix9ine hurt, he was just one of many enemies 6ix9ine made through bad choices and the deceit of people closest to him. To truly see how dangerous it became to be tied to 6ix9ine by 2025, we have to look inside the web of betrayal that tore his world apart from within. The years between 2017 and 2018 were when things first began to collapse for him, and not because of outside threats. It was the insiders, the people he trusted most, who did the real damage. These weren't creative clashes or money disputes, they were deep betrayals that created lifelong enemies waiting for payback. The biggest came from someone who was supposed to be his brother in business, his manager, Kefano Shotty Jordan. While 6ix9ine was out there building fame and battling Trippie, Shotty was betraying him in the worst way imaginable. And that betrayal didn't just break trust, it created another powerful enemy who knew every secret and had every reason to want vengeance.
When he hears the phone ring, I walk out because now I'm about to get into a deep conversation with Jade to front like, why'd you block my number? But the whole time I just wanted his phone to go through his phone. When I go to the other room, I swipe up, I go to the text messages and I put Sarah, my baby mom's number in. First message I see.
Wow.
Why'd you hang up on me? Call me after you done running. You still with that? Yo, like, call me back.
This wasn't just about cheating or messy relationship drama. This was about dominance, manipulation, and the calculated destruction of 6ix9ine's personal world by someone he fully trusted. The fact that it unfolded while he was consumed by his music and battling external chaos made it even colder and more deliberate. But what made this betrayal cut deepest was when it happened. The affair began during the worst possible chapter of 6ix9ine's life.
When did it start? She said, yo. She said, remember that time you called me from jail and said you needed a lawyer? June 16th?
I'm sorry, y'all.
I swear to God. And I called her. She said, Shotty took me to get the lawyer. After we went to the lawyer, he took me to a spa downtown Manhattan.
The timing is what really exposes how strategic this betrayal was. Shotty took advantage of 6ix9ine's arrest and vulnerability, using the excuse of helping secure a lawyer to get close to Sarah, eventually seducing her. This wasn't random opportunity. This was manipulation, showing Shotty was planning moves far ahead to seize control of 6ix9ine's personal life. When 6ix9ine discovered the affair and severed ties, he didn't just lose a manager, he created an enemy who knew every detail of his business, his personal ties, his finances, and his weak spots. Shotty had been embedded in every part of 6ix9ine's daily life, holding access to intel that could easily be turned against him. Having a former insider with that kind of access and a personal vendetta became a permanent danger. But these betrayals inside 6ix9ine's circle were unfolding at the same time his alliance with the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods was falling apart. The gang had originally embraced him because his fame was generating serious cash for their organization. But that same fame began breeding jealousy, greed, and internal rivalries. What started as a partnership quickly evolved into something dark and parasitic. The main tension inside 9 Trey centered around the conflict between Shotty and Anthony Harv Ellison, a high-ranking member who served as 6ix9ine's bodyguard. Ellison believed 6ix9ine was clowning the gang lifestyle, taking its perks without earning the respect or taking the same risks. He saw 6ix9ine as exploiting the image for clout, not living the code. That frustration reached its boiling point in July 2018, when 6ix9ine was kidnapped by his own people, the same ones meant to shield him from his rivals. His retelling of the abduction exposed just how chaotic and dangerous his world had become.
When he hits the U-turn, we get hit by a car from the back. Boom! I'm in the passenger seat, Jorge's driving. when I see a guy coming with a big gun, just like hooded on, running towards my door, my heart dropped to my ass.
The abduction was executed by Alyson and another 9 member, Aljamiah Nuke Mac, who forced 6ix9ine to publicly renounce his gang ties on video and stripped him of hundreds of thousands in jewelry. This wasn't just about money, it was about humiliation, a brutal reminder that no matter how famous or rich 6ix9ine became, he could still be violated at any moment. The kidnapping became a major turning point, spawning a new wave of enemies for 6ix9ine. Now he wasn't only at odds with Alyson and Mac, but his later testimony against them would send both men to prison for decades. That decision triggered shockwaves through their families, associates, and the broader 9 network, all of whom now had reasons to want payback.
At this point, I'm snitch ready. You know what I'm trying to say? So a lot of people don't know this. I was snitching before I got locked up. But it wasn't official till I got locked up because I had to sign papers.
His cooperation with federal agents created a brand new tier of enemies, not just the individuals he testified against, but everyone connected to 9 who believed his snitching brought unwanted heat to their world. His courtroom testimony exposed the gang's inner workings and led to several convictions that disrupted their income and power structure. Every single conviction from his cooperation meant one more family impacted, one more associate looking for vengeance, one more person with a score to settle. The cultural backlash over his snitching was just as explosive as the legal fallout. Prominent names in hip-hop denounced him, figures like Snoop Dogg and Meek Mill all but giving the green light for anyone to take a shot at him. When legends of the culture label you a rat and question your manhood, it sends a loud message to the streets: you're open game for anyone seeking an aim. It created a perfect storm where 6ix9ine faced enemies from every direction, all with different motives but one shared goal: to make him pay for what they saw as betrayal. There were personal foes like Trippie, who felt disrespected and mocked. There were ex-business partners like Shotty, who felt used and discarded. There were gang members who felt exposed and demanded street justice. And there were cultural leaders who saw him as a stain on hip-hop's unwritten code. But here's where things get truly dangerous for people like Ariella. When someone has that many enemies coming from so many sides, everyone around them becomes a target. Studies show that people close to high-profile figures often face higher risks of violence, even when they're innocent. The threat doesn't come from one place. It comes from multiple directions, making it nearly impossible to see coming. The fact that Ariella had already been kidnapped once in 2018 by 9 members proved that several groups were aware of her link to 6ix9ine and willing to use her as leverage. Her survival of that first attack didn't make her safer, it made her even more vulnerable, since she'd witnessed crimes and could testify about what happened. Every layer of betrayal and beef surrounding 6ix9ine had created a massive web of enemies, from personal rivals and ex-associates to gang members and cultural critics. Each faction had its own reasons for wanting him hurt, but they all understood the same truth: going after 6ix9ine directly was risky, while targeting someone close to him was simpler and just as devastating. The constant betrayals that tore apart his circle didn't just bruise his ego or stall his career, they produced long-term enemies waiting patiently to strike. And when that strike finally came in the form of Ariella's death, it symbolized the end result of years of broken loyalty, greed, and deception. The tragic part is, by the time Ariella was murdered, the question was never if someone would attack 6ix9ine through her, it was who among his enemies would pull the trigger first. The disloyalty within his own ranks had created so many potential threats that her killing could have been ordered by anyone with their own motive for revenge. In the end, the countless layers of enemies 6ix9ine had built ensured that anyone in his orbit was living under a permanent target. And when that violence finally took Ariella's life, it proved that the fallout from betrayal and snitching in the streets never expires. It only grows until innocent lives pay the ultimate cost. When your past comes back around, betrayal and disloyalty demand their payment in full. The streets always find a way to collect debts you thought were long forgotten. And on August 17, 2025, 6ix9ine's past returned with brutal precision. Ariella Lancaster Mahia Paleno was discovered shot several times inside her car along the Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon, New York. The method of her death sent an unmistakable message. The enemy 6ix9ine had built over the years was still out there, still furious, still ready to spill blood to even old scores. Police confirmed it was a targeted execution, not some random crime or robbery gone wrong. This was organized, deliberate, and carried out with a level of precision that points to either professionals or people with major resources and reach. The message couldn't be clearer. Being tied to 6ix9ine came with deadly consequences that could surface anytime, anywhere, from any direction. But to truly grasp why Ariella was murdered and who may have been behind it, we have to step back and see the bigger picture. How 6ix9ine's choice to cooperate with authorities created a permanent shadow of danger over everyone connected to him. His 2019 cooperation with federal prosecutors didn't just secure his freedom, it put a target on the backs of those he loved, allowing his enemies to strike without ever facing him head-on. By testifying against his old crew, he handed himself the ultimate street punishment, the rat label, a mark that made him an outcast in hip-hop culture and gave anyone with a grudge a moral excuse to come after him. Influential names like Snoop Dogg, Meek Mill, and 50 Cent openly condemned him, and in the street world, That was the same as placing a bounty, not just on him, but on anyone tied to him. The cultural response to his snitching created a world where violence toward him or his circle wasn't shocking, it was almost inevitable. When respected voices in hip-hop publicly strip you of your manhood and call you a traitor, it signals to the streets that attacking you or your people isn't just fair game, it's a way to earn stripes and validation. But the threat to Ariella didn't come from a single source. It came from the collision of every enemy 6ix9ine had built throughout his chaotic rise and fall. The personal feud with Trippie Red we mentioned earlier was just one possible motive behind her killing. The betrayals within his crew, from his split with Shotty to the 9 kidnapping, opened up other paths of danger, and his decision to cooperate with the feds added yet another layer of risk that made anyone near him a potential target. When news of her death broke, online discussions instantly zeroed in on these connections, with comments asking, did they kill her because she was 6ix9ine's girl? And others saying that being close to him was practically a death wish. The grim truth is, there were too many believable theories, because 6ix9ine had managed to create enemies in every direction. What makes her death even more devastating is that she had already suffered once because of his volatile world. Back in 2018, she'd been kidnapped by 9 members who mistook her for one of his girlfriends, a terrifying warning about the cost of being tied to him. Surviving that first ordeal didn't make her safer. If anything, it made her a bigger target, because she'd witnessed their crimes and could testify if it came to that. That 2018 abduction should have been a wake-up call to everyone in his circle about how deadly things had become. But instead, it was treated as just another entry in a long list of violent moments people brushed off as part of the game. That normalization of danger likely played a part in why Ariella stayed in 6ix9ine's orbit, even with all the warning signs flashing around her.
Right now, during those 47 years that I would have been serving, I'm 24, I haven't even lived 47 years of my life.
Right.
You're not checking on my mom. You're not paying nothing for my daughter. You're not doing anything for me. You're not even wondering if I'm calling somebody or not.
6ix9ine's decision to cooperate wasn't just a moment of panic. It was a calculated move to save his own life and future. From his perspective, it made perfect sense. Why should he sacrifice decades behind bars for people who had already betrayed him? But what he didn't seem to realize was how far the consequences of that choice would spread. People like Ariella, who had nothing to do with his decisions, were now caught in the crossfire of his past. The cruel irony is that while his cooperation with the government kept him out of prison, it sentenced everyone close to him to a lifetime of danger. His enemies couldn't reach him easily, he had money, security, and maybe even quiet federal protection. But the people around him were vulnerable, exposed, and easier to target. Hurting them became the simplest way to hurt him. Every time 6ix9ine doubled down publicly, every post, every interview where he bragged about telling the truth, it was like pouring gasoline on old fires. Each word reignited grudges that never really died.
Listen, I don't give a if I'm held accountable for what I did. Yes, I snitched, and I did it proudly, right? But everybody who snitches, everybody should be held accountable. Because you can't single someone out.
Every time he defended snitching or mocked the street code, he was reminding his enemies exactly why they wanted revenge. And since going after him directly was almost impossible, striking at someone like Ariella became the next best option. When investigators began digging into her murder, they uncovered multiple possible motives, some tied to jealousy, others suggesting new relationships. But the sheer number of theories only proved one thing: being close to 6ix9ine had become a death sentence all on its own. His reaction to her death made it clear she meant something real to him. He posted tributes calling her an amazing woman, speaking about her like family. His grief felt raw, but it also underscored the price of his choices, that even years later, innocent people were still paying for decisions he made in a courtroom back in 2019. Ariella Mahia Polano's murder wasn't just another tragedy in hip-hop. It was a brutal reminder that the street code 6ix9ine broke was still being enforced, just not on him. The laws of loyalty, silence, and consequence were still alive, and now they were being carried out on the people who stood closest to him. But the ones paying the price weren't the people who pulled the triggers, made the deals, or testified in court. The streets found their own way to collect what they were owed from 6ix9ine, and they chose to take it from someone who couldn't fight back. Someone who didn't have lawyers, protection, or any reason to expect the kind of danger coming her way. Ariella's death became a message, a warning to anyone thinking of getting close to him. The danger around 6ix9ine isn't temporary, it's permanent, unpredictable, and it strikes from places you never see coming. Whether her killer was Trippie Red seeking personal revenge, 9 associates settling old scores, former insiders like Shotty looking for payback, or some mix of enemies working together or apart, the outcome was the same. An innocent woman paid the ultimate price for being tied to a man whose past created too many grudges and too much hate to ever contain. The tragic truth is, 6ix9ine had built a world so full of betrayal and revenge that Ariella's murder could have been the work of almost anyone. And that's the story. Thanks for watching, and if you found this breakdown powerful, make sure to check out more of our deep dives on the channel. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.